This week's video is sponsored by Case. Capture with confidence. Well, good morning guys, hope you're all doing well and welcome to the Northumberland coast. And as you can see, it's absolutely freezing this morning. We've got forecast snow coming in this afternoon and hopefully sometimes this week as well, so there could be quite a few opportunities to get out in the snow. But today I thought I'd come across to the northeast coast because this snow was forecast to come down this side of the country today. Not so much down towards the coast, there is a little bit inland but not so much down on the coast, but it's freezing cold conditions. There's lots of weather action coming in. You can see snowstorms out in the sea there. Obviously we've come to Bamburgh Castle to start off today, basically because of the amount of texture that's in the sky and all this detail up there. It looks really stormy and dramatic. We've got all these lovely waves coming in. The tide is set to be high tide at sunset this evening, so we're going to find somewhere to shoot later. But just for now I thought we'd concentrate on this area because the actual tide's starting to come in now and we're starting to get lots of detail in the water. So I think I'm going to try and work with something with the castle in the background, all this dramatic sky and some of this texture in the water to start with. But look around for a shot, get something set up, and then I'll walk you through what I'm going to take then. Now obviously what I'm going to have to be mindful of as this tide comes in here is to not put my bag down anywhere and get it washed away, not to put any of my gear on the floor because this tide's coming in really quickly and it does here, it comes really fast, so you've got to kind of watch what's happening all the time. I mean, look at this now, it's actually coming in, you can see how closely it's coming in, every wave that comes in is coming further and further in, so it's not far away from me here, so I've got to be mindful of that. Watch what's happening around me, but at the same time I need to kind of focus on what I'm going to do with this image. So the first thing I even noticed before I even get you to the back of the camera is we've got all this rock in the foreground down here, and for me it's not actually doing anything with this image because I'm not far enough back to make it a central part of the image. So what I want to do is you can just see where the waves are coming in just beyond there and there's no rock in the scene. And I think that's where I want to be. I want to be on the edge of that so that I've got none of this mess distracting the eye from what I actually want the viewer to see, which is mainly the castle and mainly the water coming in and a kind of empty beach. Well, as empty as I can make it with the people on it. But actually today, it's not so bad because there actually aren't that many people here because it's so cold. So yeah, I'm going to move forward a little bit, get into beyond where these rocks are and then frame up my shot from there. So I've lined up my first shot here and I've connected a remote shutter release up and I've got a 6-stop filter on because I'm trying to get about a quarter of a second to get a bit of this motion of the water in. And I've basically autofocus, got my focus point in the right place, switched it across to manual, and now I've got the kind of set up. I'm just going to leave it there and just wait for the right wave movement to move through and just keep taking a shot. Now I'm not going to actually put you on the back of the camera because this tide's actually changing too fast and the water's coming in so fast here. I've already gone over the welly top, so I'm just going to be really fast and show you what you can basically see what I've got lined up. Crop pano, castle off to the right hand side, and then you've got all this coast and the water coming in from the left. But as you can see, it's coming in really fast here, so you've got the remote shutter on, basically just to capture the action as it happens. And I've tried various shutter speeds. I've tried some with texture and detail in the water. I'm now trying a couple of seconds to see what that looks like. And I really like to experiment with these shutter speeds at the coast, because they can all give different effects. Some can give you an ethereal appeal, some can give you that sort of expression, emotion. So it's just about playing with those different shutter speeds, keeping an eye on the water, because this is coming right up here again, and just seeing what works for you. So just going to be a case of waiting around today. We've kind of picked this one location and it's looking like the weather's blowing through here. So we're just kind of, this tide level now is high tide, and this is what it's going to be like later on at sunset. So it's a case of walking around now and kind of picking out areas that we can come back to later and photograph for the sunset conditions. And I quite like these rocks down below here. I've shot from those before. But today looks really promising with the amount of cloud and everything we have coming through here. Always come to the areas first, find something that you think is going to work, because scrambling for when the light's good is never a good thing. Always come early, find the shots you want to concentrate on, and then when the light does happen, you know where you want to shoot. Right guys, the weather's starting to come in a little bit now, but I'm quickly going to try and get to the back of the camera and show you what I've got. I've just pressed record on the back of here. Right, recording now. So what you should see is I've got a square crop lined up, and I'm using this rock down here as a leading line up towards the castle there, and it's kind of zigzags across the foreground here. I really like that. It works really well as this sort of square format, because if I make it too long, there's almost too much sky in the frame. So bringing it down by squaring it off in a crop seems to work really well. Now what I'm doing, I'm using a little remote shutter release so that I don't touch the camera and kind of bring in more movement that I don't want. I'm focusing, I'll just bring my focus point up there. You can just see where this rock kind of bends in, and then it's kind of got a point to the rock. I'm focusing on that point there. So I've got my focus point on there, and what I've got at my shutter speed around 1/3 of a second, f16, and just about a stop under again, because I'm trying to get about 1/3 of a second. To get that though, I've got a 6-stop filter in to bring the shutter speed down, because there's still quite bright light here. It's not quite heading towards sunset yet. It's still quite bright, so I'm using a 6-stop filter to bring that light down a touch and capture bits of detail in the waves. Now, I'm not sure whether I totally like that look, so what I'm doing is actually a long exposure as well. And if I don't like the look of one or the other, I can always blend them later on in post.
This week's video is sponsored by Case Filter's Magnetic Revolution System, made from toughened Wolverine glass, lightweight, fast and optically neutral. Be part of the revolution.
So guys, just before this came in, hopefully I got the shot, and this is how it turned out. So now the light's actually starting to get quite nice. It's not too harsh, it's pretty nice. So just using a little timer here just to take about a second exposure, somewhere like that. Where I did the square crop before, I liked the way that worked, but this actually works better. I like shooting from these rocks and looking out towards this way. I like the negative space that you have off to the left, so a strip panel works really well for that. I'm doing about a second exposure because I quite like the way it leaves a bit of texture and detail in the water but still allows that movement through. And yeah, just experiment with different shutter speeds with that. About a second at the minute, f16, ISO 200. I've got a 6-stop filter just to bring that shutter speed down where I want it, and I can kind of alter that to play with different shutter speeds and see what works best for this. So I'll walk you through what I've got on the back of the camera. I'll just press record on here again. Right, now what you'll see, I've got that strip panel as I told you. I've got my focus point in the kind of central portion of the image. I'll just select the focus point now so you see where it is. It's just on that point of rock that just sticks out over there, just in front of the castle. So I've got that focus there. So once I've got that in focus, I've got it set to give me a 1 second shutter speed at f16, ISO 200. And I'm just kind of waiting for a nice bit of interesting wave to come in, a line to be created up towards the castle and give me some sort of lead in. So it's really just a waiting game. But once I've got the focus set, I can just stand here and wait for those ideal conditions and then grab the shot. Now a similar thing again, if I just press record on here, you'll see that this time I've got a 16:9 aspect ratio, and I'm using this whole rock area that I'm standing on here, and as the waves come in, which you'll see in a minute, hopefully it'll happen, you'll see the water move across the rock, and that's what I'm trying to capture. I'm trying to capture that movement across these rocks. That's why I particularly like this spot. I can stand here with this remote shutter release now that I've got it focused in where I want to, which is a similar sort of place I had it to be before, just above the lower third line there off to the right hand side. I've got this area of rock which is kind of pointing towards the castle direction, and then when the water comes in, it adds a bit of interest along this lower section here. Again, f16, ISO 200, around 1 second, and as this water comes in, just waiting for it to cover this section of rock here, almost to where this kind of puddle part is down this section. You can see it just starting to happen on this edge. The water's creeping in, and as the tide is actually receding now, that kind of happens less. But every now and then there's kind of a rogue wave, and it sweeps right across this rocky outcrop here. So I'll try and get you through this before this battery actually dies. So we've lost all light really in this foreground area, so shooting the castle's not too much of an option now, unless you wanted it all kind of flat looking, and there's not much actual colour in the sky over that way either. Most of the colour is actually in front of us out there, and it's actually pointing just above where the Farn Islands are, just out there. You can see the lighthouse maybe just off the edge of the rock, and that's where I've got focused on now. I've got the 100 to 200mm lens on. You can see I've got in fact, hang on, I'll just press record. There you go. So what you should be able to see is that I've got that focus point just on that lighthouse off to the right hand side there. Now I've got the horizon as close to the bottom third as I can, because I'm using that pano again. I'm using about a 5 second exposure somewhere around there for the water, just to kind of, because it's kind of messy looking if I freeze the action too much, I want to kind of smooth that out a little bit and take a bit of the attention away from the water and more on the sky and the lighthouse in the background. So a slower shutter speed just kind of reduces the attention on the water and allows me to focus closer in. So focusing on that lighthouse, 5-second exposure, and that's basically for the water to give that sort of slower ethereal look. Then what I'll do is take another shot for the actual sky, because I don't want that movement to appear in the sky, because the sky is actually quite interesting back there. So I'll grab this shot for the water, and then once that's finished I'll remove the filter and then just do a normal fast shutter speed for the sky there and blend the two in post. So as you can see now, the light's fading. We've kind of lost it behind the castle. It didn't really happen behind the castle. We didn't get the light where we really wanted it, as is often the case when we come out for landscape photography. But it's just a case of keeping coming back to these places till you get the conditions you want. I'm quite happy with the shot I got out towards the lighthouse, out on the Farne Islands over there. And actually I just got another shot now with the moon rising up above and the lighthouse off in the distance, so you did a long exposure, and I'll blend both of those together to get quite an interesting shot, I think. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one soon. Take care. Bye bye.